Orbital Gardens, this is Mission Control. We are confirming acquisition of your signal. You are live in 5, 4, 3, 2.
Hello and welcome to Gardeners of the Galaxy, the podcast for all of the sentient beings in the universe who have a passion for plants. I am Emma the Space Gardener and I will be your host as we explore gardening on Earth and beyond. It's been 5 years now since we started exploring the plants boldly growing where none had grown before. That's 5 years of chatting about everything from the first seeds in space to the latest ones to come back from the moon. It's been quite the journey, hasn't it? Usually, for anniversary episodes, I tell some of my favourite stories from the Astrobotany archives. This year I thought I would do something a bit different and look forward instead of back. So what's on the horizon for our pioneering plants? Let's start with our nearest neighbour. It looks as though we should see the first plants growing on the moon by the end of the decade. 3 planned lunar missions include an astrobotany experiment, and the first one is due to blast off next year. That's Aleph, the Australian lunar experiment promoting horticulture, which will use a small payload of seeds and plants to explore and establish the conditions necessary for sustainable plant growth on the lunar surface. Aleph is catching a ride with IM-3, which is currently expected to launch in the first half of 2026. Interstellar Lab's Little Prince mission is committed to growing roses on the moon. The company's website has a timeline with Little Prince travelling to low Earth orbit in 2026, followed by 2 trips to the moon, one in 2027 and the second in 2028. For the first moon trip, Little Prince will travel to the lunar surface with Astrolab's Flex rover, which will launch on a SpaceX Starship rocket, if they can build one that doesn't explode. And NASA expects Artemis 3 to launch no earlier than mid-2027, with the first astronauts to step onto the moon since December 1972. That mission also includes the Lunar Effects on Agricultural Flora, or LEAF project, which will study how the lunar environment affects the germination and growth of plants that may be used to feed astronauts in the future. It includes a plant growth chamber with an isolated atmosphere, housing red and green varieties of Brassica rapa, duckweed and Arabidopsis, with the intention that the astronauts will bring plant samples back to Earth. Of course, successfully landing on the moon isn't easy, and private missions don't have the best track record. Of the 3, I think Artemis 3 has the best chance of growing plants on the moon, assuming it can overcome its technical and political challenges and actually get off the ground. I asked my friends on Mastodon which plants would they take with them to the moon, and import suggested microgreens, really tasty and nutritious sprouts like broccoli and chard, which would be a really quick and easy way to get a garden growing on the moon with very few resources. During her 6-month stay on the International Space Station, French astronaut Sophie Adeneau will carry out an investigation designed to give students in France a taste of space gardening. The Epsilon mission, expected to begin in spring 2026, includes CLOR ISS, an educational experiment comparing how plants grow on Earth and in space. Created by CNES, the French National Space Agency, in collaboration with Sorbonne University, the French Ministry of Education and the Ministry of Agriculture, CLOR ISS will involve Adeneau and students on Earth growing the same seeds at the same time. The goal is to explore how gravity affects germination and plant development. The name CLOR ISS combines Chloris, the Greek nymph linked with spring and flowers, and ISS, for International Space Station, to reflect the project's focus on plants in space. And it focuses on 2 species from the Brassicaceae family, Arabidopsis thaliana, a widely used model organism in plant biology, and Mitsuna, that's Brassica rapa japonica, a leafy green with culinary uses, and a long history of space experiments. Both will be grown under different lighting conditions to study how environmental factors influence germination and early growth. While Sophie Adeneau oversees the experiment in microgravity, thousands of French students, from elementary to high school, will replicate it in their classrooms using kits provided by CNES. CLOR ISS offers students a rare opportunity to participate in space research and practice the scientific method firsthand. By connecting Sophie Adeno's work on the ISS with classrooms on Earth, the project aims to spark curiosity and encourage careers in science and engineering. Up to 4,500 schools can take part. Registration is open until the 31st of October 2025, and each school will receive an experiment kit with all the necessary materials. You can find out more about registering on the CNES website. Speaking of the next generation of astrobotanists, 6-year-old Miranda lives in Cocoa Beach in Florida. She says she would like to grow cucumbers and peach and apple trees in space. And she'd also like to grow them in her space greenhouse, which is attached to a space station that's furry and squishy and ever so comfortable, which sounds great. Space designers need to work on designs for space stations that make them much more comfortable for the gardeners who live there to tend their plants. And in Northern Ireland, Master Don user Charnock has a 10-year-old daughter who wants to become an astrobotanist. She's always been into space and astronomy, but also into tree planting initiatives here on Earth. Those led naturally into an interest in growing plants in space, and now she's growing herbs and cress in containers under grow lights. So it sounds like the future of astrobotany is in good hands.
I'm Dr. Gary Studi, a horticulturalist, plant physiologist, and space biologist. I have spent decades learning how to grow plants in space, preparing for the day humans become an interplanetary species. I've worked to unravel how the delicate dance between plants and microbes unfolds when the rules of Earth no longer apply. That journey has taught me something profound. Our future on Earth, as well as space, depends on biology, on living systems, designed to sustain life, not just support it. I envision a future where humans live beyond Earth. Plants form the foundation of that life support, providing the clean air, safe water, and nourishing food. Microbial communities stabilize the soils and the diets. Biodiversity has become the engine of sustainability and resilience. We won't import life just to survive. We'll grow and nurture it. Ecosystems will evolve with us, systems that support us as we learn to live, love, and thrive in space. This future requires deep roots in the past, clear visions of the future, and a purposeful action in the present. That is why I founded the Old Hollow School Research and Education Center, a place where purpose meets motion, where education, research, and community align around a shared goal: to create biological solutions for biological challenge, for the challenges on Earth today, and for the frontiers of space tomorrow.
One company that is intriguing me at the moment is Jaguar Space, a new bioastronautics and strategy consulting firm based in Colorado and set up by Dr. Louis Zia, a scientist who has participated in more than 25 spaceflight experiments, including sending yeast cells to the moon on Artemis 1. Jaguar Space's mission is to connect cutting-edge space research with indigenous knowledge by partnering with communities who've been perfecting agriculture for thousands of years here on Earth. The plan is to work with partners across the globe to send culturally and economically significant crops to space, not just to see if they'll grow, but to understand how the space environment might unlock new biological pathways we never knew existed. They're talking about Egyptian cotton and Armenian pomegranate heading to the International Space Station alongside Nigerian agusi melon and Pakistani wheat. Costa Rica's sending sweet peppers and tomatoes, crops that are absolutely central to their cuisine and agricultural heritage. Argentina's exploring peanuts and potatoes, while researchers in the Maldives want to study how spaceflight affects their vital mangrove species like Rhizophora and Avicennia, plants that are literally holding their islands together against rising seas. The company has deep roots in Guatemala, reflected in its name, which honours the jaguar, an animal the Maya revered as a bridge between worlds. Jaguar Space will be working with Guatemalan maize, an iconic crop central to the country's history, identity and nutrition. Both ancestral and wild varieties will be part of efforts to examine how space environments can reveal new insights into seed biology and resilience. With sorghum, okra and amaranth from Nigeria, and plans to bring African crops and agricultural research into low Earth orbit, Jaguar Space is rapidly expanding the list of countries it's working with and the exciting plants they want to send into space. This isn't just about finding the best crops for space, it's about embracing the incredible agricultural wisdom that different cultures have developed over millennia and fundamentally changing who gets to be part of our story in space. Every year, Forbes publishes lists of 30 people under 30 who are impacting different sectors with innovative, disruptive, and resilient ideas and actions. This year's list for Central America includes 27-year-old Catherine Herrera Jordan from Guatemala. Catherine is a biochemist and a microbiologist who has worked on space experiments and developed the first microgravity simulator in Guatemala. She used simulated gravity to explore the use of oregano essential oil to inhibit the growth of the fungus that causes candidiasis infections in 2017. And in 2019, she was part of Dr. Luis Zia's team that sent the Space Biofilms experiment to the International Space Station. Catherine is also co-founder and president of the Guatemalan Association of Space Engineering and Sciences, an organisation that aims to give more Guatemalans the opportunity to get involved with space research. She believes that people from Latin America and the Global South are able to work with what they have to find solutions, optimising processes and building from scratch, and that they are best placed to understand the direct effects of global challenges, particularly the ones that affect vulnerable populations. In an interview with Science Friday, Catherine refers to a project related to the seeds she grew up eating, beans. She said she had already discovered that if tepary beans were grown in space, they would germinate faster and absorb more nutrients. And now she wonders whether they could alleviate child malnutrition in Guatemala, feed astronauts, or even be planted on the moon. Many organisations are designing technology for people to live there one day, she says. Hopefully the little Guatemalan beans will make it there too. Tepary beans are a small, drought-resistant legume that was once widely cultivated between the southwestern United States and northern Guatemala. Used since ancient times as a vegetable, dry bean and fodder crop, they are remarkably resilient, highly tolerant of drought, heat and cold. They also mature quickly and are nutritionally dense, packed with fibre, protein, iron and carbohydrates. So I think Catherine is onto something there. They sound like a very promising space crop candidate. Speaking of beans, I asked my friends on Mastodon whether they thought future Martians would be growing their coffee or synthesising it. Winchell Chung thinks the gear needed to synthesise coffee would be lighter than the hydroponic gear needed to grow it, so lab-grown coffee would win the race to Mars, but taste horrible. Martha Crimson, on the other hand, thinks that Martians will have to import their coffee to begin with, at horribly inflated prices, and will therefore be driven to try growing their own to save a few bucks. Of course, if that works out, then there will be Martians growing coffee as a cash crop and exporting it back to Earth at horribly inflated prices. That's just about it for this episode. Hold on one sec, there's a message coming in from Earth. It's from Patrick Grubbs. Let's take a listen.
Hey, Emma, I know this is a little bit late, but I wanted to throw in my 2 cents anyway. Possible futures of astrobotany is a very fun thing to ponder on. I think this will be a great episode. Obviously, my organization, the Spring Institute for Forests on the Moon, has a bit of a stake in the future of astrobotany. It's pretty clear what future we're aiming for. I envision a world in which plants and, of course, their associated ecosystems are providing those ecosystem services to keep us alive, like they do here on Earth, but on the moon and on other celestial bodies and even on the vehicles we use to travel in between them. I think that there's a lot of room for, of course, we can do genetic modification and stuff to make them more suitable for our needs, but there's so much variety and utility that already exists in nature that we're not taking advantage of that I think can get us a lot of the way there. I would love to see the future of astrobotany not necessarily be an example of man's dominion and control over nature, bending it to our will, but a way that we can re-examine our relationship and our mutual dependence on one another, both plants or humans and their environment. So If it's not too late, I hope that some of these sentiments make it into your episode, but if not, no worries. Thanks for the work you're doing, Emma, and I'm looking forward to listening to the episode.
Well, the birthday party will continue into the early hours, but the show is ending, and it's time for me to hand you back to Mission Control. Capcom, I don't want to dampen the festive atmosphere, but the funky smell I mentioned is getting worse. Any suggestions?
Orbital Gardens, this is Mission Control, confirming termination of your signal. We have spoken to the engineering team about the smell you've reported, and they have requested that you try stirring the WC tank. Mission Control out.